Hello, people of the internet. I have crazy hair today, as you can see. Looks rather cool though. Crazy hair! Okay, enough. You've hopefully seen the thumbnail and read the title, so you know what I'm doing today. One day I shall tackle the absolute wonder that are 18th century gowns. But today is not that day. Today we're doing this instead. We're making a cloak. This is a great day for me. This is a dream garment of mine. I've wanted to have one of these forever. I just love cloaks with massive hoods because they're so whimsical and such a staple in fantasy, and I'm a huge fantasy fan. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Yeah, the excitement is obvious here. I'm like, yes, I'm doing this. Okay, craziness for later. Craziness for later. I've got a pattern. Again, it's from Reconstructing History, a historical reproduction of an 18th century cardinal cloak. Red, of course. As I said, I'm going to try to make it as historically accurate as possible, which means hand sewing the entire thing. And yes, those things are long. If you're one of those people who, like me, think that cloaks should definitely come back and you are looking for more cloak content, I highly recommend one of Rachel Maxey's videos when she made a couple of cloaks. She really started a few months ago and I was already thinking about this project, so I was very excited to watch that. So if you want more cloak content, I will just link her video up here and down below, and you know, cloaks. Need I say more? This is going to be a bit awkward because I don't have all of my materials yet, so I'm going to have to make an insert. Moving on to materials, I guess. Cold, and I'm drinking cold coffee. Yeah. Materials for you. I would also like to take a moment to thank one of my newest subscribers, Elaine, who kindly made a donation on my website, and that donation has contributed to buy some materials for this project, which include the button molds, which I just showed you, and also some button gauges. Is that how you call this? They're basically these things, which are used for making thread buttons. If you're watching, thank you very much, Elaine, I really appreciate it. I'm here. Hello. As many of you may know, quality natural fiber materials are very, very pricey. In case you are interested, I paid £235 for fabric for this project. I will put like a list with conversions here so that you know how much money that is in different currencies. It is a lot of money. I spent tons. But in any case, the way I think about it is that I am making a garment that I hope will last me for life.
No, I'm not having a nap. My pattern is for a garment of above the knee length, so I'm measuring how much I need to extend it to make it roughly ankle length. Shocking, I know. I'm cutting the original pattern. There's only one size anyway, and to be honest, I couldn't be bothered to transfer it. Here I'm marking the cut lines. The pattern only includes 1/8 of an inch of seam allowance, so I'm adding an extra 1/4 of an inch. I'm also extending the bottom by 40 centimeters. I know this isn't how one extends patterns, but it's fine, I'll even out the hem at the end. And it's time to cut. I'm marking the 3/8 of an inch of seam allowance with chalk. And thread marking every piece because, apparently, chalk on wool disappears if you as much as breathe on it.
Let me show you what I've done so far. These are all my pieces. I hope you can see that I have thread marked every single seam allowance. The pattern wants me to attach the two side pieces at the very beginning, but I think that's pretty dumb because it will add a lot of bulk when I'm trying to attach the collar and the hood, and I do not need the side pieces to attach the collar of the hood because that's entirely in the centerpiece. So I think I'm going to start by that and leave the two side pieces to the very end.
The first step is to sew the shoulder cape pieces at the center back. And because apparently I'm a glutton for punishment, I decided to backstitch every single construction seam in this project. This is how the shoulder cape looks sewn and after pressing it. Moving on to the neckline, which has to be gathered down to 24 inches. Each half will need to measure 12 inches and each of the 4 individual sections, which I'm showing here, will need to measure 6 inches. They are not identical in length, so some areas will have to be more gathered than others. I'm making marks half an inch apart so that my gathers will be as even as possible. I'm running through a single gathering thread very close to the seam line. I'm pulling on the loose thread to create the gathers, and then I'm arranging them until each section has the right length. Next, the neckline is pinned to the shoulder cape. The shoulder cape is shorter and shouldn't align with the ends of the neckline. You can hopefully see that here. I'm pinning each gather individually to keep them as even as possible. Then I'm sewing the two pieces together with a backstitch. Okay, this is the most exciting part. Now comes the hood. The center section of the piece you are seeing here needs to be gathered in a sunburst kind of shape. So again, I'm marking points half an inch apart for the gathering threads. This time I've used 2 parallel ones. In this case, the fabric is gathered as much as possible to form really tight cartridge pleats. I was supposed to tuck the raw edges in as I went, but that didn't work for me. So I left the raw edges showing and sewed close to the end of the pleats, both on the inside and the outside. The back seam of the hood is then aligned and sewn with a backstitch. My pattern says that the seams in the original garment weren't pressed open, but I don't live in the 18th century and happen to have a few minutes to spare, so I'm pressing mine. Next, the hood is attached to the neckline as well. I'm first pinning the center back of the hood to where the center back of the shoulder cape is, and then pinning the edges of the hood and the neckline, which should align in this case. The rest is also pinned, making sure to arrange the remaining gathers on either side. The hood is sewn with backstitches. Now I must tackle the ginormous task, which are the side seams. Sewn with backstitches. Sure. Why did I do this to myself? Here, I'm preparing the hood's lining and trim. I'm first adding an extra 1/4 of an inch of seam allowance as I did on everything else. Then I'm cutting the fabric. The strip of silk I've cut is pinned to the edge of the hood so that 2 inches are showing on the outside. I decided to sew both the inside and the outside with a whip stitch, which proved problematic, as you are about to see.
As it turns out, I spent the entire day yesterday to bind the edge of the hood, only to come to the conclusion that I really hate the results. It's messy, it looks bad, and I think I'm going to redo it. I used a method that wasn't ideal. Okay, it was bad. Look at this, it's so warped and it's just been hanging overnight. It's not been thrown in a corner. It's been on a hanger. I don't like it. I don't want to make something I think is I'm hoping the new way, which I think is the correct way, to be honest with you, it's going to be faster. I'm going to take the time to redo it. Even though I'm on a schedule here and I don't have much time to finish this garment before I go. Yes, I'm like traveling to Spain in less than 2 weeks and I need to get this done. And to have a day job, so... fun. Cheers!
Okay, second try. First, of course, I have to unpick everything I did yesterday. I've drawn a line 1/2 inch away from the edge of the strip of silk. So I'm pinning it 1.5 inches from the edge of the wool, right sides facing each other. Then I'm sewing the 2 pieces together along the line with a running backstitch. Once that's done, I'm turning the silk over the raw edge of the wool and sewing it with whip stitches to the inside of the hood. I'm very happy with the result this time. The hood's lining is formed in the same way as the outer hood and pinned to the inside of it. As you can see, this time I did manage to tack in the raw edges of the pleats. I also made sure to hide the raw edges along the neckline of the cloak. The lining is attached with whip stitches all around. Those of you who haven't watched my tartan skirt video, link on screen and below, will be very confused right now, wondering what on earth I'm doing.
Let's test.
Well, I don't own a dress form, so I'm building a temporary one to even out the hem of the cloak.
I'm still surprised how successful this method is. How does this work? Because it works.
I'm using this cardboard tube to draw marks along the hem, all at the same height from the floor. I folded the cloak in half to make sure both sides will be identical. I'm linking the marks I drew earlier to create the cut lines.
Moving on to the very scary part of cutting the hem. I'm so scared of messing it up and then not being able to fix it because I've already cut it. I'm so scared. Okay. Guess what, friends of the internet? We've got an even hem. Yeah! Think that works. Yeah! The rest should be easy peasy. I hope. Also, it still amazes me how well this works.
I'm cutting 2 long strips of silk, which are 5 inches wide, to trim the front of the cloak. Next, I'm drawing lines half an inch away from the edges to know where to sew. I didn't show this before, but I decided to use the selvage of the fabric, so I'm removing the hairy bits on the edge. As I did with the Hoods Trim 2.0, I'm pinning the strip of silk to the wool 1.5 inches away from the edge, right sides facing each other. This means that there will be 2 inches of silk showing on the outside of the garment. The 2 fabrics are sewn together with a running backstitch. I'm pressing the seam I just sewed from the right side of both fabrics. Then I'm turning the garment to the wrong side and wrapping the silk over the raw edge of the wool. I'm folding in the raw edge of the silk and pressing it and pinning it in that position. The folded edge of the silk is secured to the inside of the garment with whip stitches. Closures. Man, how I hate closures. First, I pinned the top of the strip of silk, both on the inside and the outside of the garment. Next, I'm sewing the inside part with whip stitches. Then, I'm unpinning the outside part to have access to the wool and sew the closures more securely. I'm sewing the hook and eye closure to the very top of the front opening of the cloak. Finally, I'm repinning and sewing the outside of the strip of silk with a whip stitch. Now, I'm cutting 3-inch wide strips of silk to trim the shoulder cape. The long edge of the shoulder cape is curved, so I'm cutting that one on the bias. Which was awful, by the way. If any of you know an easy way of cutting strips of sleepy silk on the bias, please do let me know in the comments below. I found it extremely painful to do. And after that ordeal came another, turning that bias strip into bias binding, which I didn't film. This footage is from one of the much easier straight grain sections. That bias strip simply refused to hold the position, and I hated it, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. The rest of the process was very similar to what I've done before, but just with 1 inch of the strip of silk showing outside, and much harder to do. Anyway, I finished this at 6:30 p.m. on the day before traveling to Spain, so filming every detail kind of went out the window.
Hi friends, sorry if there is a little bit of background noise. My family is in full swing right now, so I wanted to give you a little bit of an update because I've had a change of heart. Sorry if I seem a bit tamer than usual. Oh I have a bad muscle spasm in my neck and it really hurts. It's really painful and ow, that hurt. I shouldn't have done that. That was bad. Bad idea. Bad me. Anyway, update. I know you expected to see this cloak with the little fake vest section on the front, like you can see in this image here. However, when I finished making the outside part without the vest, I really liked it as it is, and the instructions aren't particularly clear on how to make the vest. I don't know how to attach it. I don't know how to attach it properly. I'm terrified of ruining what I've already done with the very expensive fabric. So I have decided to leave it as it is. I'm really sorry if you're disappointed because you wanted to see me make the thread patterns and all that jazz, but I'm actually going to make a vest that I could wear as an independent garment, also historical, with the same wool, etc. So if you were hoping I was going to do that in this video, I'm really sorry, but stay tuned because it will come eventually. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say, which means there is only a reveal left. got a cloak. And this is the best thing. This is one of the best things I've ever owned in my entire life. I love it so much. And yes, before you ask, I did have to go the Red Riding Hood way with this. I'm sorry if it seems a little bit too cliche, but it had to be done. And now I'm going to get out of this cloak because it's kind of warm in here. I'm dying. As usual, we may ask the question, is it perfect? No, it's not, obviously. However, I'm really not bothered by the issues at all. I learned from them. It's possible that I would do some things differently if I were to start now, but they don't bother me at all. I think it's incredible. I love it so much. I feel like I'm entering an epic fantasy tale every time I wear it. I'm really happy I made it, and now I want like 3 more. I also want to give a shout out to my brother who helped me film the reveal. He works as a blacksmith. He has a YouTube channel, an Etsy shop and an Instagram. I will link all of his info down there. He makes reproduction swords, shields, little pieces from video games, especially The Legend of Zelda. Really cool stuff. If you're interested, go check him out. He is extremely talented. Also, as usual, I have uploaded some high quality images of the cloak to my website. I do highly recommend that you check them out this time because my brother also helped me take those, and some of them are seriously cool, if I say so myself. The link to my website is down below as well. Hola. Con mi audiencia. I hope you enjoyed the video. I had so much fun making this cloak and filming the process. If you did and you would like to accompany me with more shenanigans in the future, sewing or otherwise, feel free to subscribe in the button link thing below the video. One more thing I wanted to let you know. I've noticed yesterday that at least one of my videos has ads, so I thought that maybe some of you might think that I'm actually getting some revenue from AdSense. But please note that that's not the case at all. For a creator on YouTube to be able to apply for monetization, you need to match certain criteria, and I'm quite far off at this point. You need to have 1,000 subscribers and at least 4,000 hours of watch time in the previous 12 months. And as you can see here, I'm quite far off from that. So the revenue from those ads in my videos at the moment is going to YouTube and not to me. If I reach that threshold and I'm able to monetize my videos, then potentially that income would start coming to me. But at this point, that is not happening. So if you see any ads in my videos and you think that my channel is monetized and I'm getting an income, please note that that is not the case at this point in time. Alright then, this has been going on long enough, so I'm going to head off now, but I hope to see you very soon. Bye!